So our presentation today is about what is holding back nuclear energy and how can we solve this issue. By me, Alex Tabasoli, Dash Gardner, Caden Stillwagon, and Christian Hu.
So, before we start this presentation, I'd just like to give you a bit of background as to what nuclear energy is. Well, nuclear energy is the process of splitting atomic nuclei and then capturing the heat energy that's released and converting it into electrical energy that we can then use to power anything. And there are two different kinds. There's nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. Right now we're only using fission, as fusion has not been rolled out yet and won't be until the coming decades. So, according to the Center for Climate and Energy Sources, nuclear power plants emit 0 pounds of carbon dioxide per megawatt hour of power produced. Compare this to the 1,100 pounds and 2,200 pounds of carbon dioxide per megawatt hour of power produced of natural gas and coal. And furthermore, nuclear energy is at a 91% peak efficiency. Compare this to solar energy, which is at 24%, wind power, which is at 32%, and hydropower, which is at 41%. So, 31 countries in the world, as of right now, according to the World Nuclear Association, have access to nuclear power, and as of now, only 2 have nuclear power account for 50% or more of their power output, those 2 countries being Belgium and France. Moreover, fossil fuels, in general, account for 66-point-something% of all power produced in the world. Compare this to nuclear energy's just under 11%, and all renewable resources combined at 21%. So, if nuclear power is so good, clean, and efficient, why isn't it being used? Well, as you can see here, nuclear energy was introduced in the 1970s. It's been on a gradual incline up until 2011, when the Fukushima meltdown incident happened. From here, it cratered and hit its lowest level since 1998. And since then, it's been on a general incline since then, though it hasn't reached its peak. And furthermore, according to an op-ed written by The Economist in 2014, barring major technological developments, nuclear power will continue to be a creature of politics, not economics. So with all of this data that we've amassed, we have determined that our problem is that nuclear energy is being held back by public unrest due to safety concerns, as well as lower cost but more environmentally damaging energy sources.
Our first solution is to implement strict safety designs and protocols to help ease the public safety concerns. One way to make nuclear power plants safer is by using molten salt reactors in the production of nuclear energy. According to ZME Science, molten salt reactors are walkaway safe due to the fact that their saline fluid combines both their fuel and their coolant, which does not allow nuclear reactors to melt down. Also, if the fuel were to overheat, it would simply drain down a freeze plug, which melts when the fuel becomes too hot. Also, the molten salt reactors are not susceptible to terrorist attacks, as they are kept at atmospheric pressures, which means that the fuel would simply leak out, cool, and solidify without ever releasing any radiation. Thorium is a uranium-like element that is commonly used as the fuel of molten salt reactors. According to Lightbridge, a nuclear energy company that specializes in nuclear fuel, thorium-based fuels allow for safer operation of nuclear power plants during normal and off-normal scenarios. The higher thermal conductivity of the thorium-based fuels and lower operating temperature leads to increased safety margins during off-normal and accidental scenarios. The strengths of this solution include that there is a lower risk of meltdown, the MSRs are less susceptible to terrorist attacks, and thorium is prolific in nature, safer to mine, and cheaper and better for the environment as the fuel can be reused. The weaknesses include that MSRs have never been used for commercial use, but only in experiments. There is a corrosion risk with MSRs due to using salt, and although much more difficult than in the uranium-based nuclear reactors, an overtaken and modified MSR might be able to produce weapons-grade nuclear material due to the extraction of thorium, which creates the uranium-233 isotope that is used in the production of nuclear bombs. The implications of this solution would be that nuclear reactors would become more prolific due to the ease safety concerns, which would also reduce the use of harmful fossil fuels. The limitations of this solution are that, according to terrestrial energy, even a small 190 megawatt MSR can cost up to $1 billion. However, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists, a normal nuclear reactor can cost up to $9 billion.
Solution number 2 is placing a carbon tax on top carbon-producing industries to increase the competition between nuclear energy and fossil fuel resources. So, what is a carbon tax? Well, according to the balance, a carbon tax is a Pigouvian tax, which is a government cost on activities that could possibly be harmful to the environment. A perfect example of this would be pollution. A company that creates a large amount of pollution is taxed a set price per ton on carbon, depending on how much pollution they produce. What this does is it ensures industries, businesses, and individuals consume less and become more energy efficient. As perfectly illustrated here by the International Energy Agency, nuclear energy, the horizontal blue line, does not stand a chance against fossil fuels' low prices. As a result, carbon emissions remain at a high. But with a carbon tax, the tables are turned. With fossil fuels now increased prices, its usage declines and nuclear energy increases. Some of the pros of this solution are it include a better competition between nuclear energy and carbon-based resources. This makes consumers more energy efficient and also allows a boost in economic growth. The cons of this solution include an increased cost of energy for Americans, such as gas prices. Also, because it is difficult to measure the amount of carbon emissions, tax evasion would be a very common occurrence. Lastly, if a carbon tax is used, then there will be a drastic decrease in pollution emissions, but also a drastic increase in price for energy. What would hold this solution back would be public resistance against these increased prices.
So, in conclusion, we decided that a carbon tax would be a better option. A carbon tax will advocate for clean energy, which includes nuclear energy, as it does not produce any carbon emissions, as said by Dash earlier. It's also, as said, very clean. Also, as Dash said earlier, compared to other energy sources, like solar energy, nuclear energy is much more efficient at peak 91% max efficiency compared to solar at 24%. So also many individuals support a carbon tax, but without even realizing it, that also supports nuclear energy, as nuclear energy does not produce any carbon emissions. Also, the extra safety measures do not really justify the cost of building many molten salt reactors, as Caden stated earlier. These are our works cited.
Okay, I'll start with you, Alex. In what way did you improve your ability to work with the group as a result of this project, and if you could be specific, please?
Okay, I feel like I improved working with my group specifically because due to personal reasons, I wasn't able to show up to school yesterday when we were going to go over it. So we were able to work as a group and set up time after school to practice our presentation over a Discord call.
Okay. Dash, in the future, what change would you make in your group norms specifically, and how would you expect that to improve the team presentation?
Honestly, I'd probably take less of a leadership role, because with Cade and I in the group, we kind of both tried to take charge and micromanage everything, and we kind of irritated each other because I would go in while he was editing and then change a slide and he would change it back and he'd call me. And I think that it would help in the fact that our group would be able to flow a lot better in terms of the fact that there aren't two different leaders competing for power over the group. But another thing that I'd do is I'd probably meet more, because the only thing we did was, as Alex said, we called in a Discord call with a video call, and we tried to practice it there. But even then, it was kind of laggy and glitchy because my internet was kind of terrible. So it didn't work as well as meeting in person would have. But other than that, I think we did a pretty good job. Okay.
And Caden, can you describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about your team's solution or the conclusion you came to?
Christian's argument of the carbon tax, I had never thought of that before, and that really changed my perspective on how we could actually get nuclear energy to be used more common in countries and become a major source of energy rather than the harmful fossil fuels.
Okay. And Christian, let's see. Give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Alex's findings in his paper.
Yeah, okay, so Alex's was the scientific lens, and he talked a lot about what could possibly happen, the downsides of nuclear power, specifically in the future, like what could happen as far as like when you store the energy, what could happen in the future, like could that be dug up, how could that affect our generations, how can we ensure that it'll stay underground? That really made me think that nuclear energy might not all be that good as far as the future benefits. As of right now, like it seems all good. The nuclear energy has really no carbon emissions at all. But in the future, we just don't know what could possibly happen.
Okay, thank you.